On today's show, we're talking strictly about Honda because we have agreements on all sides, and both of the Alabama schools have agreed to go ahead into this matchup. Also, there's conversation about only 160 members are going to be going to Honda. Really? All that and more coming up next on Luke's Band Report. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or whenever you're watching me right now. My name is Jay Luke, the owner-operator of the Passionist Network. I'm also the host of Talk That Talk. You can get any of our merchandise at www.realtalkthattalk.com. First of all, before we even get started, big shout out to my brothers and sorors of Kappa Kappa Psi and Tau Beta Sigma, Fall 04 or Spring 04. And the reason why I say that 04 class, man, they're hitting us with these nice little jerseys, man. So I had to go ahead and rock it, man. The dream team. Shout out to you all, KK, AEA, and all that good stuff. Anyway, moving on. So, first things up, Alabama A&M University has accepted the challenge from, you guessed it, North Carolina A&T State University. Why is this an interesting thing? For me, it's an interesting thing, and I'm pretty sure for everybody else, because that's just an interesting matchup. I mean, let's be real. The Aggies versus A&M, we haven't really seen that before. And so, honestly, it's just kind of an interesting balance. So let's talk about it real quick. As somebody who's actually directed in the SWAC and played in the MEAC, I've had the availability to face both programs. What I have noticed, and I'm going to be very honest, for me personally, A&T for me is a better field show band. And so if we're going to base Honda strictly on field shows, I'm going to be very honest, man. A&T got this one in the bag because A&T does a great job of pulling out all the stops just to be able to make sure that they pull off a great field show performance. Now, there is a ringer that Alabama A&M has. This guy, former member of the Blue and Gold Marching Machine, who was now an assistant band director at Alabama A&M. You think he's gonna be giving us some of them secrets? Some of them things that they be doing? Probably getting a couple of drills from, my boy Gary. We never know.
At least a playlist.
But I did find it interesting that even in the fact that they agreed to be able to do it, they threw him in the video too. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest, that was smart. But nevertheless, I'm just gonna be very honest that I feel like A&M is definitely a strong field show band because honestly, the sound that they produce on the field, in my opinion, has always been better than what they produce in the stands. And that's not to say that they're terrible in the stands. I'm just trying to say that their field show sound is pretty pristine versus what I hear them in the stands. Now, when it comes to A&T, I'm talking creativity, I'm talking they're bringing out all the stops. The girls are going to be everywhere. And I call them the all-purpose girls, and I do that for a reason, because they're the all-purpose girls. They do everything. Everything. But I'm saying flag, dancing, props, they got it all. And because of that, I'm saying GE, general effect, and all that kind of stuff is going to definitely be all over the field. And then again, you already know that when it comes to the field, A&T is pulling out everything they possibly can. They're looking at old drum corps videos. They're looking at all the different ways that they can be as creative as possible. Not to say that A&M won't do that or hasn't done that, but I do feel that they're stronger on the field. Now, when we have the stands conversation, that's a completely different conversation because if any of this is going to be judged off of what they do in the stands, A&M got it. I'm just going to be honest. A&T, to me, has not really been that strong in the stands for years. And this is coming from somebody who faced them back in the day, that early 2000 era, when Middle Finger U and Velvet Rope was like the top things that they played. And when their drilling and their sound was more of a SWAC inspiration, what more people would consider a MEAC inspiration. So to be very honest, in the stands, I think A&M has it. A&M in most places are going to play most of the music that's going to be either A, entertaining to the crowd, or B, so left field that it's interesting to listen to. And honestly, when it comes to clarity of sound, you generally get something better from A&M than you probably would from A&T. Now that's not to say that A&T sounds terrible, but that is to say that I prefer their field shows more than their stand presence. Now, when it comes to auxiliaries and dancers and stuff like that, I'm gonna be very honest, I'm not really gonna be looking at it like that. But I mean, all-purpose girls, I think that they're all right. And I know that their name is Golden Delight, by the way. But that's just what I've been calling them since undergrad. All in all, I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup that we're going to have to wait and see. Moving on, Southern The human jukebox called out Alabama State, the Marching Hornets, and hey, I'm just going to be very honest, this was interesting to be able to see that Alabama State accepted that challenge. This is going to be an interesting matchup. Why? Because, I mean, it's Southern and it's Alabama State. We've actually had the availability to see them go back and forth in the SWAC. They can really get into some interesting battles, but then going back to what I was talking about earlier, is this field show presentation or is this stand presentation? Because you already know that Southern is going to be Southern. Now, that's not to say that they're going to be terrible, but that is going to say that they're going to show up with a polished routine. There's going to be a little bit of creativity in there between the drill, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to put a same old drill that they've done back in 1970 on the field. Without a shadow of a doubt, with the staff that they have, they're going to be very, very creative in what they put on the field. I can guarantee that. Also, you already know they're going to have a big sound on the field. The dolls are going to doll, and they're going to find some way to do something in a dance routine that's going to get the crowd hyped. We already know that, right? And then you have Alabama State. Alabama State is not necessarily a bad drilling band, but I will say when it comes to them on the field, if I had to compare sounds between Southern and Alabama State, I would actually go with more of Southern than I would Alabama State. And that's not to say that every time they get on the field, they sound horrible, but what that is to say that I would probably give Southern more of the nod of listening to them than I would Alabama State. They are going to come out with their normal opener as they always do with Alabama State, and 9 times out of 10, you already know that they are going to bring out the honeybees. You're already going to know that they're going to throw them out there for that crowd participation. Just wondering, because you know this is a bigger stage, will they bring them out early? Will they bring them out in the middle? Or will they bring them out in the normal times they already bring them out? Who knows? And you already know what's going to happen. Battle between the dolls and the stingettes. That's going to be an interesting battle for all of the auxiliaries and the dance people out there to be able to see. Because I'm going to be honest, I'm a fan of both of them. I think they really do well for the style that they have. And they're enjoyable to watch.
He ain't lying.
With that being said though, what if this thing comes down to a stands battle? What if they do allow the stands to be able to take place at this particular Honda Battle of the Band? This is going to be very interesting because we've seen Southern and Alabama State battle it out in the stands. And most of the time, you kind of know who takes the cake on that. But Alabama State has not been a pushover in these last couple of years, and I really don't think that they're going to be a pushover in this particular situation too. So if they get the opportunity to be able to battle in the stands, what's going to happen? Who's going to give the bigger energy? Who's going to play the better song? Who's going to have the better clarity and sound? All of these different things are the questions that we have as we are getting into this, but it's so exciting to see. It's really interesting to see what's happening in Honda right now, specifically in the fact that we said it was going to be in California and everybody didn't want to go, but now the momentum is building up for it, and Honda's doing a great job of being able to market this thing between the videos, the cuts, the edits, all of those things to be able to get people excited about what is going on at Honda and the fact that it's in one of the highest states in the United States. And that's a whole different conversation. But it's super dope to see that both of the challenges have been accepted, and I'm really looking forward to see what's going to happen with these last 2 spots. Remember, there's 6 spots. Remember, it's the ones that Honda chose. Now you got the challenges out there, and now you got 2 more spots available based on the voting. So we'll see what happens as time goes forward. Moving on to the last topic. So it's coming through the grapevine that it's only going to be 160 members that's going to be able to travel for this Honda Battle of the Bands. For me personally, I'm going to say 2 things. One, if this was a battle that was adjudicated, 160 members is great. Why? You, as the band director, have to be able to put that instrumentation together to get the most clearest, pristine, balanced sound that you possibly can. And now you're talking about an apples to apples situation. You ain't talking about a 260-piece band versus a 130-piece band. No, what you're talking about is 160 members even across the board, which means that either A, you're cutting the fat, or B, the reality of what your band really sounds like is going to show. And the reality is, when you break some of these bands down, like when you listen to some of them pep bands during the basketball season, I've had an experience just like that. And I'm gonna tell you about this. Here's a quick story. When I was in high school, Willow Ridge High School, long time ago, we had Southwest DeKalb come down to Houston to battle us, which I thought was super dope. Back then, I was excited to see Southwest DeKalb because they were one of the top band programs that I had ever seen outside of us. So they came all the way to Houston to battle us, and I thought it was great. But the reality was, I realized these guys are really big, and they sound all right. Ain't much to them though. It was the truth. That's how I felt back then. Fight me if you want to.
Put up your dukes.
Then, moving forward in 03, when Norfolk State faced FAMU, I realized at that time it was like listening to Southwest DeKalb all over again, which brought me to an interesting conclusion. The conclusion was, when you cut them members out, you realize FAM sound the exact same as they do without those numbers. My point that I'm trying to say is, cut some of these numbers down and we actually get a chance to see what some of these bands sound like. I don't really think it's a bad thing. I like the fact that we're gonna go even. Numbers match apples to apples. Now you gotta be strategic in what you're doing. The numbers that you put out there, the arrangements that you play, and how you piece them together. Because now you don't have the excessive numbers to overplay in certain areas. You really gotta balance out that sound to get the sound that you really want. And I'm not saying that it's not gonna end up happening, but I'm gonna say that it's gonna be very interesting to see. I'm all for it. Kudos to you, Honda. At the end of the day, I'm looking forward to it. And again, I appreciate the energy that's being built around this. Good job, Honda. I didn't think that y'all was gonna be able to pull it off. I honestly didn't think anybody was gonna be talking about it. I didn't even think I was gonna be talking about it again. And here we are. Who knew? So with that being said, you guys tell me what you guys think. I want to see it over in the comment section if you're watching live, or inside the comment section after you get finished watching this, if you go watch it on playback. Also, please make sure you hit that like, subscribe button. Make sure you go ahead and turn on those notifications. And I haven't forgot, I got Elizabeth City State University coming up next for the grading. I haven't forgot that, but stay tuned and we'll get to it. Other than that, I will see you on next week.